¿Qué pasa, mi hermanas y hermanos? Welcome to Soulogy's first bilingual broadcast. No, I'm just kidding.
Está muy bien.
The white guy speaks better
Gracias.
than the Spanish guy. So,
Awesome.
we've got Tolec in the house, a good friend of mine. I met him 2 years ago, the first time I came to Sedona to get initiated and indoctrinated and get my ass handed to me on a cosmic galactic platter. And but yeah, we instant. You know, one of those instant kindred,
connections.
the kindred resonant thing that 10 years ago we used to all get excited about on the internet. Oh my God, we had a past life together. Then you start to realize it's everybody. But no, we have a special bond. There's no question, and it's just like, where you been? Like we don't even talk, and then we'll talk, and it's like we just pick up where we left off. Yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
But Tolec is, I got to give him his props. I said this at the conference. He just had a conference. We're going to talk about it this past weekend. And I had a chance to speak briefly to the people there. And
You were amazing, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
You reached a lot of hearts.
Right on.
Yeah.
Very cool. And I just had to start that whole thing because I've watched him work in the community and give. And we all know it's service to self, service to the collective, service to humanity are all becoming one thing. And a lot of people spend a lot of time talking. I know I do because that's what I do for my passion. But I'm talking about in terms of like validating their existence, drawing attention, and I'm not knocking anybody because we're all making this transition that we call ascension, and we're creating a new template, the new blueprint, the new good book, the new way, But this man walks the talk. And what I mean by that is he's very humble. He goes about his business. He's very dedicated. He works his ass off. I talked to him the night before the thing, and he had slept like 7 hours in 12 days.
Yeah, something crazy. Silly. Yeah.
But I mean, absurd. This is the kind of effort that I do think deserves recognition, and also I think it accentuates what people are starting to realize, which is it's the energy that speaks. It's not the words. It's what you do. And
actions.
So I just want to say he is, I've been in almost 30 states with Soulogy. I've obviously virtually been all over the world. I think the last time I checked it was like 70 something countries that we've done shows where we've collaborated with people.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and so I just want to say there's not a lot of people like that. And I think we should recognize people like that, especially those who have been out there a while, because he started his website, the Andromedan Council, in 2011. Okay. Right. I was just waking up in 2011 or reawakening. And he did a lot of stuff that was ballsy and out there that created some tension in his life in regard to threats. Life threats or death threats. And
but one comment on that.
Yeah.
If it was just me on this planet, like no relations, I wouldn't have cared.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there was this one wacko guy that basically threatened to go after my mom, my sisters, and their kids.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. Just not cool at all.
Right on.
But other than that, it's been a great ride. It's been really, really rewarding to see all of the, if you will, the brothers and the sisters, metaphorically, the brothers that come together at each of these conferences. And I wanted this year, I titled it specifically, Wopila, a special gathering of spiritual friends and family.
Right on.
I purposefully titled it that way so that it would be an intermixing, interblending, communicative gathering of people maybe who had met before but not necessarily.
Right.
And it worked. We had a couple of people came out like, so I have like 75, 80 people here. And it was just the right size because there were people we had people from their early 20s all the way to a gentleman who was with us. He was in his early 80s.
Wow.
So we not only had people from different native, Indian nations, from about 6 or 7 different nations speaking. We had the span of people from their 20s, their early 80s that were all there at this gathering, communicating, eating together, talking with each other. And equally as important, if you'll remember, no chairs and tables, no podium, no dais.
Right.
People sitting in a circle, and we used the microphones,
Yeah.
passed the talking stick. It was amazing to watch it come to life.
Yeah.
It really was. And my hat's off to you, to everybody who got up there and just did an amazing job of speaking your heart and your life experiences and what you've been through. And you did it as well. It was, people were, as late as it was on Sunday afternoon, I don't know, 3:30, 4 o'clock when you spoke, people were paying attention. They were listening to what you had to say, and I could see the wow.
Well, I talked to some people about it. I ran into them after, a few people that I knew, just here and there, here in the studio, and then at a get together, and I was at dinner one night, and everybody had the same message pretty much. They said, in effect, I'll just paraphrase it, that they could see kind of a shift occurring, that one of the things they noticed was that the men that were speaking, their hearts were wide open.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And they were talking about how there was respect and recognition given to the goddess energy, the divine feminine, the grandmothers, a lot of the at least a couple of the speakers I saw, the indigenous speakers. I saw one was Gordon.
Yeah, Gordon Lewis.
Amazing. And they were paying homage to the feminine energy that's been suppressed in all of us, basically, in their own way. But that's one of the things I heard. And the other thing I heard was they were talking about, and these would be like, I guess established Sedona people, like that have been around and watched this whole thing evolve, and talking about how they could see the shift from, like, I guess years ago, where it was very patriarchal, or not say patriarchal, but more masculine energies, not in terms of who's speaking and who's attending, but in terms
of the energy.
The energy, So that was the big deal. Yeah. And even if you look at the land where you had, where the guy they hosted it, there was something there was something very balanced in that land. Even though he was developing it, like where he was putting the pool in, you could see the masculine and feminine dance. Do you know what I mean? It was very cool.
And as a matter of fact, his wife, Sasha, is putting together a women's empowerment group.
Wow.
To bring women out to that center and for them to tell their life stories, as girls, as young women, getting married, having children, all of those experiences, and, if you will, not only honoring the sacred feminine, but celebrating the sacred feminine.
Yeah, that's important because it has to come out, and it's inevitable. It's inevitable. I mean, the pendulum swings one direction, it swings back the other direction. And I'm sure there's been a time, because I know I've downloaded it. I've seen other people talk about it in writing and on video, when there was a time when there was a matriarchal civilization or realm in its entirety. Yeah. But we know that over these last 6 to 12,000 years, it's been a very patriarchal dominated realm. And I know you know that. You were talking earlier about when you were reporting years ago how the last of the reptilian bases, which obviously was a patriarchal energy, were being shut down, and that's when you started to have some threats and all
attacked.
that.
Attacked, followed, you name it.
You never got a visit from the Men in Black?
No, guys in the unmarked white vans. Same idea. Like I said, the guy with the big bowl dish and his microphone pointed at me when I was about to have yet another.
Like the E.T. scene when they're driving down the road in E.T. and they got that's what is that, a dish? Like a dish?
Dish. Yeah. It was like a dish microphone, and I walked outside and pointed at him. I'm like, "You get out of here!" Yeah. He threw the microphone on the seat, hit the gas, took off.
That's one thing I've always heard too. Is like when people have an encounter. I have a friend of mine that lives in New Jersey.
God bless.
And she is kind of in a rural area.
Okay.
Like rural lots, like say an acre to 2 acres. Yeah. So she was doing
more inland, like away from.
She's central.
Okay.
So she was like, she was doing something. Now she's not one of those people that draws a lot of attention, but she was connecting. Something was happening. She gets a knock on the door from this dude that says he's from the Census Bureau. But long story short, to your point,
This is bro.
he ended up. She invited him in. She saw him for what he was, and to your, to the point of what I'm trying to say, to connect to what you were talking about, is that even though this is a very physical realm, timeline dimension, we still can we can still fortify our field by claiming our sovereignty and commanding our experience, which is what you did, is what she did. Once this guy showed his colors,
Right.
she said, "Get out,
Get
don't ever
out.
come back." Now he would come back, but he would never just walk in
You
the
know,
door.
cross the
Yeah.
threshold of the door.
Yeah, so we have that even in the physical realm. And I think that's important to remind people, because I see a lot of people that are, well, I guess we all have levels of fear, but like you see a show, somebody will be doing a show, and someone like you that's been involved and had quite a wealth of experience, and they'll be like, "Hey, are the spaceships going to land tomorrow?" Or, "Hey, are the reptilians going to still come get us?" Or, so there's still that these fear loops of fear playing, and I just think it's important to kind of restate that we can claim our sovereignty here just as we can in any other timeline dimension.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, absolutely. To the point of reptilians or otherwise, and this is a topic I've been talking about for a few months now, but people can expect to see, I guess you could call them false flag, fake alien attacks, and we're looking at not one, probably 2, 3, or 4, and they're fake.
Yeah.
In that they're not from deep space. They're not aliens that have come into our environment around planet Earth and attacking us for the first time. It's all scripted. Whether you call it the cabal or the powers that shouldn't be or the deep state.
Right
this
on.
is their gig.
Right. Project Bluebeam. That type of thing.
Yeah, you could use that name, certainly. But the idea is, without question, to think of. Do you remember the terminology called shock and awe?
Yes.
Okay, so it's
war.
it's a shock and awe kind of attack, so that people who might have lived in fear of the possibility of quote unquote alien life,
Yeah.
this is going to shock the hell out of them, because they'll see discs, they'll see laser fire, buildings are going to get destroyed, that kind of stuff. But the fake part is decidedly that the attacks are going to be from either reptilians and or reptilian cosmic human hybrids. And they're already here. They've been here on planet Earth for thousands of years. So
Let's go.
again, it's fake in that they're not coming here from outer space. And the real goal, actually, is ultimately an overt power grab by the cabal, which is controlled by the reptilians.
Right.
That's the whole deal, is to completely lock down and not only diminish but destroy sovereignty and independence of Earth humans.
Yeah.
Shock and awe for the sake of
Because
suppression.
The subtle, covert, method they've been using isn't working anymore.
No.
So let's talk about this, because we just yesterday started talking a little bit about some of the things that we don't normally talk about, 2,200 episodes, and not because we're afraid to, but one reason is because a lot of people do talk about it, and number two, there's I guess in this frequency, what we've tried, or this combination of frequency, we try to kind of break it down to the brass tacks, which is, why is all this stuff happening? Why has all this stuff been happening?
That's right.
It's all about us, okay? So I love the way he kind of framed this up, because the bottom line is we've all, there's been a lot of intel out there about this is coming, okay? Now, whether it's coming or it's not coming, I think it's a great thing to talk about, because it offers code for people just in the terms of accepting the possibility.
Right.
It's when we have cognitive dissonance, or when we just look away altogether and say, oh, it's all about fluffy love and light. It's not. We can't understand and comprehend everything, but I do think it's important to bring this stuff up because it needs to be talked about.
As you know, this is still a planet, as people in the spiritual community would say, this is still a planet of duality.
Yeah.
You know, on the far, far right-hand side, if you will, there's, if you will, love, light, compassion, understanding, helping one another, etc. And on the far, far left-hand side, again as a metaphor, is hate and ridicule and avarice and meanness and cruelty and not necessarily the people, but sometimes people, but the beings that are still here on this planet. I'm saying it this way: they're still here. They're still here on this planet, and at some point in the near future, they're going to be going away. And the simple reason is, as you're clearly aware, this solar system and this planet is going through an area of space where everything's getting ramped up.
Right.
Vibration, frequencies, the modulation of the human as well as Schumann resonance.
Schumann, the human
Schumann.
That's
right.
That's a good line.
Yeah, that's a good Freudian
I didn't
slip.
remember for a rap.
Yeah. Everything's being bumped up because of the area of space that the solar system is going through.
Yeah.
And that's the primary reason for all of the changes happening in this planet. And when I say changes, I'm talking about social, political, geological, weather, which will manifest in coming Earth changes that we haven't even seen yet. And I know this stuff generally isn't pretty or easy to talk about, but it's a reality that we're living in, and I think it's probably more practical to bring these things out in the open. As well as the highly likelihood that we're going to see multiple alien attacks, destroying buildings, etc., as a way for the cabal to do an overt power grab and suppress the human race as much as possible.
Well,
that's their goal.
Well, yeah, I know. Well, and this has been out there for a long time, and it's been talked about for a long time. And I look at everything that we get and it's put before us. It's metaphoric, whether it happens in the physical experience or whether it happens in dimension. But here's my thing. All right, so I think that first of all, we all need to remember. Look, I'm an eternal soul, and
that's right.
What the hell are you going to do to me?
That's right.
Okay, I mean, I've had conversations with reptilians, teams of reptilians. I remember 3 years ago in Arkansas, where they were all towering above me.
Yeah, they're huge.
And I just said, hey, y'all want to do this again? I mean, if you take me out, I'm just going to come right back and take you out. Like, so, and there was this whole, and I've had several mergings with them. Morgan and I actually had the reptilian energy come into our bedroom about, I want to say about 6 months ago.
Okay.
And it was a air of reverence and honor and peace. And they said, look, the level, now how this is played out, I don't know, but we know it's not linear. We know it's all quantum. So there's there's no sequential chronological order. But what happened was they said the level of love frequency has risen to such a point that our job is done. And this is the role we had to play. And it wasn't always easy, but we're done, And so this to me was a very timely message. This was like around the first time. This was around the time when COVID started to be publicized, right? And the quarantine started to be pushed. But I wanted to say that on what you were saying and flip back to you, but I also wanted to say, too, that, look, whether they, came into our dreams, implanted thoughts in our minds, subliminal programming, fluoride, GMO, chemtrails, the whole 9 yards, the vast majority of the influence that the you, me, we, and it, that is the they we're talking about, had on us and has had on us is strictly fear.
Right.
So don't forget that no matter what happens,
that's their control mechanism.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so even if you have what seems to be a physical occurrence such as 9/11, who we still don't know today whether thhether a drone was flown into and all that stuff. But all I'm trying to say is it will be portrayed, if it occurs, in a way that has an extreme physical presence that seems life-threatening. Remember, doesn't matter what timeline, what dimension, just like he did with that white van, that unmarked white van, he said out.
You leave.
And
That's right.
they leave. Yeah. And this is where we're at. And the last thing I would say is for everybody that's in these circles knows, you know, you're connected to Andromeda and others. We have a huge force behind all of us, and that's in the light. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, and another point to bring up, which you mentioned, which is really, really valid, that people, I don't think people always appreciate, is that, you know, this body that you have in this lifetime and this body that I have, this is just one body. And,
exactly.
and if we look at our life experiences from a quantum perspective, our oversoul, the totality of our soul fractals that animate these bodies, are limitless in terms of years.
Absolutely.
You could say thousands, you could say millions of years, but these organic bodies will in fact terminate at some point in time. Whether somebody is 12 or 28 or 64 or 85 or 37, it doesn't matter what year of life. The soul fractal is that thing that's eternal, and that has knowledge and wisdom. I've been told that I've been coming to this planet for 75,000 years. And I've heard,
No, I'm
and
with
you.
you.
It gets better. I know I've talked about this before, but I asked them one time, I said, so 75,000 years, why 75,000? I've heard a lot of other people, they've been here for 100,000. And they said, we need to keep you back for some more teaching. I'm like, you guys.
I know, like in my case, I mean, and it's so hard for me to like conceptualize this stuff, because if you look at, for instance, how many people I've met that were Jesus's sibling, or the offspring of such and such divine essence. I don't know if we carry a little piece of it. I don't know if was it actually my life. I mean, I was shown 9 or 10 lives when I first woke up. So I really don't know how that all works. And I guess for me, whether it's a past life memory or a future progression that comes back to me, some people say the galactics are the future. I personally think that's our most recent past. But whatever it may be, whether it's an activation, download, channeling, and a meetup like this, which I think is the most powerful opportunity we have to expand, it's information, it's code. But when I look at the lineage of the Earth and the downloads I received, particularly a few years ago, I know I came from I don't know if this is where I was originated, but I came from like the goo that was the plasma that created the Earth, so it was like soil to soul.
Wow.
Like, I mean, like every little animal.
A long time ago.
Like I have had so many mergings with animals in particularly in the bayou in Houston where I used to hang out, that I'm them. You know, so I'm like I see a big swamp rat, and now I'm the swamp rat. He's me. You know, I mean, so
it's the concept of life and its totality is just fascinating. I think one of the reasons, I know that one of the reasons why I'm so connected to the Lakota and Dakota people is that my soul essence was originated back on the planet Dakota in the Tegetasar system, right? And they're the Genesis people of a lot of the Western Native Americans. The Western natives of this particular landmass. And so, as an example, the first time I picked up a native flute and started to play it, key of F sharp, songs flowed out of me that I could have never. I wasn't composing. I was just playing.
Right.
The first time that I started to read Lakota, tears started to stream down my face because I was touching into the ancient nature of my life, my recent life stream. And so I'm keenly aware that I was a Lakota warrior in 2 lifetimes, a Dakota warrior once, a Hopi medicine man. Yeah. So that's, kind of recent, 1500, 1600.
I totally get that. Yeah. And maybe that's one reason. Like, I still I'm not as attached to my past life members that came in, but as I used to be.
Yeah.
But when I reawoke, I went through this period with 6 ascendants, Jesus and Magdalene, and maybe Archangel Michael. So there's like 9 of them.
Wow.
And then they came to me and they said, "We're done with you. We're going to introduce you to."
We're going to hand you off.
Yeah,
Sure.
You've got one more thing to learn, right? And and I thought it was one entity, but I didn't know. And they said, "So we're gonna introduce you to them. They're going to present themselves to you, or he's going to, or whatever." So I was in a hotel room, and you know those kachina, the little figures like the milagro, that they have all around here.
Yeah.
So I'm in this hotel room, and at the time I was dancing 5-6 nights a week. That was my channeling. That was my light language. That's how I found my soul. And I look over in the corner, and there's one of those figures dancing, and it's this chief running bear.
Okay.
And he tells me, "I've been dancing with you every night." And he says, "I was your father in a Lakota life."
Wow.
And so then, fast forward, it's maybe this is why we have this connection. That's why I'm bringing this up.
Okay.
So then there was his brother, who was White Owl, who was the spirit of my mind. And then there was my brother, his son, was, and all from the same life, that was White Wolf, was the spirit of my heart. And and so maybe that's it, because they showed me 2. I was shown 2 Lakota lives. One, I was very young, and I died about 16, and the other one was the one with these 3 individuals. Yeah, I wrote a bunch on that. Just kind of like automatic wrote the memories.
I always found that whenever I get these kinds of pieces of insight, or because I've done this a few times when I travel back to my home world of Dakota, and I experience things with people, and I stand there, or
in the
back in the Pleiades.
Pleiades,
yeah, to get a star system.
Right.
I always come back with a sense of reconnection, renewal.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, a month and a couple weeks ago, I was in Washita, South Dakota, speaking at that conference, and it's the bear theme. So Friday night at the conference in Mass, those of us that were there, we drove over we crossed the border from South Dakota into Wyoming.
Yeah.
And there I am at the base of and hiking what white guys call Devil's Tower.
Yeah.
Which is Mato Tilopa.
Yeah.
It's a Bear, I think Bear Butte or Bear Lodge.
Yeah.
And I'm mixing the two of them up because 2 days later on Sunday, a number of us went over to sacred Oglala Lakota land, still within South Dakota, and we were at the base of Bear Lodge, I believe, Matopaha. And so I couldn't have never predicted that after changing the conference venue from Mico, Texas, here to the greater Sedona area, that I would actually end up literally across the road from Bear Mountain.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, guys, I'm paying attention.
There's something to it.
Yeah.
And even Orion, or some whatever it is, the constellation.
Sure.
What is that? Is that Orion or Syria? I don't know. I can't remember.
But I'm bringing this stuff up because I've had. It's not always easy to put into words, but I've had much more in-depth connection with my own people, my family members from the planet Dakota.
Yeah.
A lot more recently, and they've said, your time is coming to a close on this planet in your current form.
So you're heading out.
Yeah.
Man, I don't want to head out. I want to stick around for a while.
I don't know exactly when, but they've said that we're about to reach the apex of all of these changes, the social changes, geopolitical changes, et cetera, within, because I asked them the question, I basically posed many years, or many months, and they were very quiet, and they came back and they said, many months.
Yeah.
We're not looking out 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years, 10. We're talking about a significant period of rapid change in the coming months ahead, including this brand new month of October. This month is supposed to be off the charts.
My dear friend Pamela Johnson, who has been in this arena for a long time.
Okay.
Like pre-2000. She put up a sign. She put up a post too. But one of the things she said was that. I love this one. She says, "I dreamt of it years ago. A craft flies overhead, then a second craft with a cameraman suspended beneath it, filming it with a large CNN sign." And she also said,
"Classic.
October's going to be huge."
Huge. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that. I think absolutely October. To me, October, November, December. and it's going to be huge. I think it's going to be beyond anything any of us can comprehend.
Yeah.
It's going to challenge us. I want to cover a couple things and go back to you.
Sure.
So one is that
this is conversation.
Yeah. So I love the fact that you say it's imminent. I think everybody should express exactly what they feel. I think sometimes we might have to remind ourselves there's 7.7 billion of us, and there may very well be 7.7 different Earths, and there's a god or goddess in charge of each one of them. It's their own experience. But how do you explain all this? I love the fact that there's not this carrot on the stick, Notre Dame-esque type of, it's going to happen out here and it's etched in stone. One of the things I've noticed on the show and the work I do is that these forecast the dates, even though some of them are still firmly entrenched out there at 2035 or 2025, but they're moving up. It's like we're accelerating and expanding. So therefore, if we look at it on a linear basis, it's moving forward.
And I want to qualify something with you. Mm-hmm. My life has been such, and traditionally I don't anyway, but my life has been such that even if I wanted to hear what other people are saying, other people like me, you get the idea. I don't know. I don't know what other people are saying.
Yeah.
What I am telling you is what they've told
what
me
you're getting,
that I learned
Absolutely.
within the past, just within the past 2 months.
Yeah.
And to the point about fake, false flag alien invasions, which will be a production.
Yeah.
It'll be, if you will, a 3D life production, but a production nonetheless by the cabal and powers that be with technology they've already had and ships that they've re-engineered and repaired and et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely.
That's not the end. The
No.
good news is there are a number of independent, good ET races and certainly benevolent races that are connected to the Andromeda Galactic Council that once, if you will, the remaining reptilians that are on planet come up like the rats out of the woodpile. Our benevolent brothers and sisters will be taking care of the reptilian issue on this planet and the cabal issue once and for all.
Well,
That's
I
sort of the
I get that. Yeah.
the drawing of the close of the cabal game that they've been running.
Well, and here's the way I look at it. The bottom line is,
Again, we're not talking years.
No,
we're
I
talking
know.
imminent.
Like I look at us as the epicenter. For instance, my wife and I have Star Family come into the room. They materialize, the translucent, and we have interaction. Now, this is an example.
Okay.
Who are these Star Family? These Star Family are physicalized representations of me. Okay? So I'm all for the white hats that are supposedly behind the Q movement, then they're doing all the stuff that they're doing. I'm all for the Arcturians and the Pleiadians and the Andromedans. All of these, and many of these I've connected to, directly in my own in my own experience. But whatever it is that is countering our energetic tsunami, okay, they don't stand a chance from the awakened and aware and empowered human hybrid soul, individually and collectively. So there's a rule that's always seemed to come through. I'd like to get your thoughts on this. In the universe, no matter where you're at, the universe can't do it for you. No one's going to do it for you. No one's going to save your ass. This is an inside job. We have to save ourselves.
Well,
that type of thing.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Sorry.
No, it was me. I just I swallowed when I should have breathed. In any case, you raise a valid point, and I'll give you an example that is a different perspective of the same issue. Mm-hmm. I learned a long time ago from my if you will, collaborative members on the council, that the whole concept of them stepping up to the plate when things are so bad that we have no opportunities to defend ourselves, when things are so bad that we are so overpowered that we can't help ourselves, and or if there are Earth humans that will threaten the existence of this planet, of beings of this planet, i.e. nuclear weapons, etc.
Yeah.
Those are the instances where they'll step in.
I agree.
But when it's malevolent, if you will, evil-intentioned Earth humans who are focused on domination and control against other Earth humans, as unknowing people who, just everyday people going on about their lives, the mass of humanity are just trying to live.
Yeah.
They're not going to step in because that's human against human.
Yeah.
And imagine if they did step in and something went sideways, something went south. They'd get blamed. They get blamed right away. Yeah. It's like, oh, you guys stepped in, you messed with us, and we you shouldn't have. Yeah. So, I think rightfully, to the best of our ability, we should step up and take care of each other's.
Yeah.
To the best of our ability.
Which these things that have applied 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and frankly, if we look at the entire Earth history, at least going back, like again, 6,000 to 12,000 years, have we ever been in control? Has there ever been a leader that was actually calling the shots, whether it be a president or a prime minister? Okay, so we'll go back to that in a second. What is relative to the current time and space is the level of consciousness. Our level of consciousness in the last 10 years has grown exponentially. Everybody knows that. We're like babies. We're like learning at warp speed. So what was a threat to us 5 years ago or 10 years ago, just as what was a discovery of our own personal shadow 5 years ago or 10 years ago, isn't in the same context today.
No.
For instance, when an individual elevates and expands their consciousness, they then have a higher vantage point and they look down and go, oh, I didn't know that shadow existed. I didn't know I had a blind spot there. They couldn't see that at a lower level. Now, the same goes for the Earth. So if you look at, and we'll go back to you on this, because I still think we need to squeeze a little bit more out.
Sure.
The false flag frequency, okay? If you look at what you were talking about when we started the show with the fake alien invasion, which has been out there for a while, that you're pulling in on a personal level, and others are too. 9/11, same technology, same methodology.
9/11 was a false flag.
Of course it was.
Absolutely.
So just imagine the fact that on one hand it mobilized the energy of the world, and from a vampiric standpoint, sucked the energy out of us, okay? But as time went on, this is how the universe works. It works in a paradoxical manner. So what you think is up is down. So what happens? 9/11 became a huge catalyst for all of us, many of us, to wake up. Now, you go to 2020, and you have COVID. And you've got people walking around going, what?
Right.
Like, this doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't make
you got
sense.
203,000 people supposedly that die of this in the U.S., and there's 60 million people here. There's other things, and so we can see the orchestration of it. The false flag frequency his effectiveness has been waning more and more and more. Look at the shooters, like the Vegas shooter, the Dallas shooter. How long were they in the news? 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. They got butchered on YouTube, and it's done. So I think if and when this type of ballsy, bold,
overt
kind of occurrence with this fake alien invasion, which is an insult to our intelligence, which is an insult to our connection to infinite intelligence, and to the level of expansion we've had as an individual and collective consciousness. When it occurs, I have a feeling there'll be at least a strong minority that sees it for what it is, because of people like you that have gotten out there and talked about it. I just don't think it's going to have I don't think it's going to stick.
I'm hoping that the open discussion and, if you will, disclosure, ahead of time. Boy, I did swallow something wrong. Just wrong. Wrong pipe.
Throat chakra.
No,
No, not just you, but everybody. To me, it's like the throat chakra. That happens to me, by the way. My wife goes, "Oh, that's interesting." Like,
actually, it never happens to me. So,
well, there you
but
go.
I'll continue to say this.
Yeah.
I think it's valuable that we have this open discussion
Absolutely.
on this topic,
Yeah.
so that people can go, "Oh, this is what he's talking about," and some of these people, and some of these people, and they're all talking about this
Yeah.
topic ahead of time,
Yeah.
and they're giving some considerable details about how it's going to happen, and this might be worth paying attention to, so that we're not blindsided.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
Absolutely.
The idea is that people are warned so they can not be blindsided.
Well, and you're offering code. What is code? Code is something presented before you or me or whoever that we hadn't thought about. Basically, like some things are presented and you go into cognitive dissonance. Some things are presented and you just say that can't be true because it ruins my experience. We know that on this trip we got to be open, and I want to ask you this too, because you are coming from a 10 plus years, being out there, which 10 years ago, that was not an easy thing to do. You were a very obscure, in a very obscure arena that was getting a lot of rocks thrown at it and other things. But,
I remember some of my early interviews, people were like, "Why, what, fourth dimension, fifth
Yeah,
dimension,
Right.
babies being born out of energy, what the?" And interestingly enough, some of those same people are now talking about the dimensional shift and the ascension, and when they're talking about what life is like in 5D.
Absolutely. I talk to my kids and they'll be like, "I'm a light worker." I'm like, "How do you even know that word?" But I wanted to ask you this,
Yep.
okay? I've watched this happen over this year. I keep my eye on certain platforms, channels,
Okay.
just to, and I won't name any of them, but and
Kind of
I
have
will
a bead, have a bead.
yeah,
on.
just to kind of
yeah,
pick,
sure.
and that would include like Drudge Report, and that would include like some of the mainstream news. Just pop in, pop out, not to see what's going on by what they're telling you, but what's going on by what they're not telling you, or what are they trying to present, and then
Okay.
alt news, and then light worker, type. So, one of the things I noticed this year is there's been a shift since the beginning of the year from kind of a yogi guru frequency to a self-empowerment
That's a good thing.
frequency. Yes, absolutely. So
Wow.
you go from a codependent, and it served us. Don't get me wrong. But we're coming out of a codependent frequency. I do something for you, I expect something from me. You know what I mean? These were at the 3D level. This is where you get how much something cost, and the different roles and expectations that we have. Codependent frequency. Now we're moving into a trinity frequency, duality. Anything structured in duality is being deconstructed, and so you have this frequency of self-empowerment, of people thriving, of people saying, "Hey, I can do this on my own," and they're coming into
Right.
their own awareness, their skills and abilities, higher sensitivities now. So these subjects of disclosure, and I don't like conspiracy, this stupid word, but I say disclosure. I almost feel like that at some point, well, I guess this is where
You're talking about like the government does official disclosure. That
well,
that
no.
kind of thing?
I'm talking about like light. I'm talking about light workers / disclosure / conspiracy platforms and channels.
So people are talking openly about all these topics.
Yeah, they're talking about it,
All
but
right.
but when the entire episode or the entire composition of the channel or the platform is all about banging the drum of oh my god, Chicken Little, the fucking sky is falling.
Yeah,
Where I have a
oh yes, again.
but where I have a pet peeve is why are we giving? I don't have a problem talking about it, okay? Because I do think some people still need to hear about it so they can kind of wake up. But we should be giving it at least equal time into the I am soul, into what you talked about with the oversoul and the journey of the soul and the fractals of the soul.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean? I think we should be giving it at least equal time. I feel like half of the lightworker platforms and channels are psyops, period. Okay, why wouldn't they be? The CIA designed Facebook, they designed YouTube, they're behind Google, whatever, big deal. But the bottom line is, why aren't we giving more credence to who we are, and what we're a part of? And the last thing I'll say about that, to underscore it, is why isn't there a president or a prime minister or a prominent public figure that Why hasn't one of them gotten up in front of a microphone with the level of awareness of who they are globally or regionally, even in a country, and said, "Hey, I'm an eternal soul."
I've got an answer.
You know what I mean? I want the answer. Why I'm an eternal soul. Here's what's going on. I'm not afraid if they hurt me. It's an illusion. It's not even real. My soul's not going to be put out forever. I'm eternal. I mean, I don't get this. I want to hear what you had to say.
Okay, so I would stipulate that when we're doing webcasts like this, and we're talking to these literally spiritually awakened community, we're talking to people who understand the concepts that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Now, if we shifted the webcast of this information to the general public and called it a broadcast and sent it over mainstream television, we would be talking to 90% of the population that has no idea what we're talking about. So the point that I'm getting to is the more and more people that become awakened, instead of the number being 15% or 20, but the number starts to become 40 or 50 or 60 or 70, then we'll start to see a greater infusion of, if you will, public officials, people who are out there actually working for the public good, that those people will be stepping into roles of responsibility. And you noticed I didn't say politics, I didn't say power. I said responsibility.
No, I'm with you.
And it's
I'm with you.
we categorically need to choose to shift and be able to say to the current powers that shouldn't be, guess what? Remember that thing called the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution?
Yeah.
Right? A government for the people and by the people. Even if we get rid of the word government and call it somebody who would always look out for our best interests in simple language, we need to be able to have the sense of self-power.
That's right.
And composition, belief in selves, to say to the current structure that is, and one of the things I would say is, guess what? The two-party system doesn't work for us anymore. Why? Because it's the two sides of the same coin called politics, right?
Of course.
So that doesn't work.
Yeah.
The current structure of mayor and city council and reps and Congress and national elections, which are a fraud, and I'll address that in a moment.
We know that.
That needs to all go. But we've got to take that. We have to tell the people in power, you're fired. You're fired. You just fire them.
And the fact is, do we even need that structure?
No, we don't. No.
Does 5D have possession? Does 5D have contracts, copyright, trademarks? Does 5D have taxes? Does it have?
That's because of clairaudience, clairsentience, telepathy.
Yeah. So how is this? How is this going to happen? Are these spaceships going to land, take us to a new Earth, and and someone does it for us? Or are we actually anchoring this stuff in by the virtue of what we do? Now, I love what you said about bringing up the Constitution, bringing up government, because the fact is, in my opinion anyway, and this is just my opinion, it's not gospel, but I don't think it was worth the paper it was written on, because everything has been a ruse, to include like COVID, for instance.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about is the essence of that thought of
I agree.
Government for the
Absolutely.
people. Now, I also stipulate the word government no longer applies.
Right.
It's a concept that's out of date.
Right.
But it is those trailing words of for the people and by the people.
Yeah.
We should be responsible for our own lives.
I
Self-responsible,
agree.
self-motivated.
I agree.
And choosing people, and I know we need a new system, but choosing people, if they're going to be representatives of ours, that are heart and soul centered.
Councils.
Yeah, councils. Yeah, councils.
Grandmother councils.
Yeah.
You said something. What did you just say? Okay, so you were talking. Oh, okay. So part of the look. There are so many lines of differentiation. We are in a fishbowl of a realm that's operating under a false set of principles and rules. One of the things that jumps right out at me is nationalism. You know, everyone's scared of the New World Order. But we got to remember there's a double connotation, there's a double entendre, there's a paradoxical meaning to everything that's presented to us. And I guess what I'm trying to say is there are no borders. The minute we say I'm an American, we are the separation. The minute we recognize a border, we are the separation. It's not about MAGA, make America great again. It's about MEGA, make the earth great again. It's about MUGA, make the universe great again, because they're all related. This is a universal correction that the epicenter of it, the core of it, is our own personal transformation and alignment. And it's not about anything external. We change the external by changing the frequency of our own field, by taking the responsibility as the co-creators and co-collaborators that we are. And
But see, I don't have an issue at all with differentiation, diversity, people of different languages and colors and cultures and ways of being. I think we ought to be, if you will, children of God, for lack of a better word, children of the Creator, and celebrate the differences, but without borders.
Exactly.
Without borders.
There are no borders. Are there borders in the universe? I mean, I'm sure there's levels. You know, there's Venus, there's Mars. We're looking at everything through 2D eyes. You know, that's changing rapidly. But look, what if the reality of the universal experience collectively is up to us? Not to what spaceships are going to land, not to who came in here and duped us,
good point.
Not to the narratives that are out there. Because we've got to remember something. One thing that's coming clear to everyone, whether you're awake or not, and I'm saying that sarcastically, is it ain't about the past, because we can't even trust the past. The history's been whitewashed. Yeah. It's not about the future, because that's a fixation on some kind of nirvana that's never going to happen.
It's now.
Heaven is now.
Right.
So it's presence in the present.
That's right.
So that
Every
means
moment.
that everything goes out the window. What's the past? It's fucking gone now. It doesn't even apply unless we let it hold us down, unless we carry it like a handicap. But I think this is where we're at, because at a quantum level, it's all about what you perceive, right? If I have an interaction with you, and I walk away and I go, he's this, he's thinking that, he thinks this about me, I'm creating that.
Right.
Whereas
the energy of that.
I'm creating that. Now that doesn't mean that it's going to take hold in the collective, but it's going to mix in there with that sea of soup, and it's going to create the collective experience. If we walk away, we interact, we're one. You know, we are one. We have so many different things that align, and at the end of the day, I am you, you are me. Period. End of story. Then we start to have a quantum experience that I think accelerates very rapidly, and I think there can be, just like with individuals, instantaneous change. We don't have to go, let's get rid of this government, let's put in this new system of councils. I don't even think it operates that way. That's a human kind of comprehension, a human kind of a narrative. I think we're actually on the precipice of having the characteristics and the type of experience and the type of power control, I don't mean control in a bad way, but over ourselves, of our field, that we have in dimension.
So it's self-responsible self-management.
Yeah, just like when you travel
and
home.
Everybody respects each other.
Absolutely, because it's a given. You know, what we're trying to do is anchor into a lower dimension, or maybe transform the lower dimension to a place that we're familiar with, like when you go home to the Pleiades. You don't go into the Pleiades and go, uh-oh, I need to lock my door. I need to put my wallet in my sock so nobody.
Not an issue.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that
it's always safe.
Yeah,
it's always safe.
Absolutely,
there's never a concern.
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah.
And by the way, I got to tell you. So Morgan has these moles on her thigh.
Okay.
And about 2 years ago, she took me outside and talking light language, and she's like pointing at the sky.
Let me guess.
It's Pleiades.
Pleiades.
Yeah. Yeah.
We know where she's from.
So, yeah, I love this conversation. This is this is very much needed. This is why I wanted to have on this show a Sasha Stone, a David Icke, Charlie Freak, Carrie Cassidy. I appreciate and love the fact of what they brought to light, but I want to know what the hell's going on with you. How are you transforming? Where do you stand in terms of how your personal frequency can affect the external collective experience that we all share? Where's your creativity? What do you do? What's your passion?
Well, you know that answer.
I know that. I know. I'm just saying. Like I think we forget. We forget.
It's really about self-responsibility.
Yes.
And it's about self-direction, self-management, self-responsibility. Yeah. When each of us screw up, take responsibility for that screw up. But even better, consider your actions before going sort of like a left branch of a road. If you go down that path and if you make that decision, if you're mature, emotionally mature and spiritually mature enough, you already know what the outcome's going to be even before you go down that path. Yeah. So it's really, I spent years and years and years refining to my core self-responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it's never them, it's always me.
Treat others like I would want to be treated. Be considerate, be kind, be conscious, even when you don't. And here's the hard one: even when you don't agree with somebody else's belief and platform, at least respect it.
That's right.
At least respect.
What's that old saying? Integrity's doing the right thing, and of course this is all in here.
Right.
Even when nobody's looking. Well
said.
And I love what you said about the golden rule, because I remember years ago in my 20s, and I was studying the different religions, and one day I went, they all have the golden rule. What goes around comes around.
Yeah, doing to others.
But the one that you just kind of remind me of, which is where because we can say whatever we want to say, but the energy doesn't lie. And now, because of the veils thinning and telepathy's getting stronger, everyone's picking up on everybody's bullshit.
Yep.
But when
said.
But when you, like for instance, this has always been, and I got to say, this has always kind of come easy for me, and a lot of things didn't.
Okay.
But ever since I was a little kid, it was like, do unto others, right?
Right.
So I would do that, and then I noticed, which was very alien to me, that some people, and I'm not putting myself out of that category, I'm just trying to make a point about what you're saying is so important, and that is, if somebody treats me like whatever, ABC, and it's not so nice, that's not going to change the way I will treat them. It may mean that I'm not going to be they're not going to be in my field, or I'm going to kind of like...
Right, and you have that right to make that choice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the reason I bring this up is because what you're saying, to me, carries more weight than all of these points of contention out here and all these narratives and all these other experience and all that stuff. I think it really comes down to this personal integrity, that the telepathy, that the universal energy, and everything that's occurring, this collective ascension, let go or be dragged, I think that actually contributes more to the utmost potential of the opportunity that we're all sharing.
The vibration, if you will, of this and the different, of course, nuanced frequencies of self-responsibility, the word I'm looking for is integrity.
Yes, well, that's it.
Self-integrity.
Yeah,
so
and
that
between you and the universe.
Yeah.